Welcome to this video in Mastering ElasticSearch 5.0 entitled Machine Learning in ES. To continue, first we need data. Note that to train your model, you simply need to get your data in ElasticSearch in an index. But to feed data to your model, it will need to be in JSON format. Keep this in mind. Next, we will need to create the index, if it doesn't already exist, to hold our training data. After that, the data we'll be using, as a side note, will come from Elastic. We'll see it as data provided by Elastic. But what we'll do is we'll do a bulk add of that data to the index for this particular example. And finally, what we'll need to do is create an index pattern in Kibana. The next step involves using the training data to train our model. And once we're satisfied, then we'll see the process of feeding data, real data that is, to our model. However, before we get to all of that, let's quickly look at the pattern that's used to feed data to your model. As you can see here, post verb and ML anomaly detectors, you need the job ID, and we'll recognize the job ID soon. And then after that, you point it towards the data that you want to bulk add, which again has to be in JSON format. Now this is once your model is built and when you want to feed data to your model for analysis. One other thing, let's look at some notes I have here on the data, since we'll be skipping the bulk adding and the index pattern creation in the interest of time. What we have here is, first and foremost, I've listed the location for the data files that you can download from Elastic. And I strongly encourage you to look at each file so that you can see the actual data inside, because one important step in the process of machine learning is to understand the data that you're actually feeding to the model so that you can get an idea of what you want and what you're looking for, etc. And as you can recall, I said create the index. This is simply the call to create the index. Here you would replace this with your index name and pretty much your settings, mappings, etc. We've seen this before. And again, bulk adding each file, okay, the data from each file to ElasticSearch. And these are just the calls to do the bulk add. And here I mentioned creating the index pattern. If you saw my course on learning ElasticSearch 5.0, I went through that, the process of creating the index pattern, bulk adding, etc. But I'm just listing it here because this is the process that I went through to actually get the data in so that we can do this example. And this is an excerpt from the data. This is actually 2. So if you recognize bulk indexing, you would recognize this, the format. Okay. And finally, when you want to post data to a job, so when you want to feed data to the job, again, this is the command to feed data to the job. So again, we have it here where we have our HTTP, and we can remove this, HTTP localhost, etc. Anomaly detectors, the name of your job here, etc. And I put a couple notes here. This will be available for download. I put a couple notes here. One, again, to reiterate, the data that you feed your model must be in JSON format. And another quick note is when we get to the point where we're actually setting our model up to accept data feeds, you'll see that there's a scheduler. When the time on that scheduler expires, your model is closed, so you'll no longer be able to feed data to it. And that concludes this video. Up next, we'll actually do the walkthrough of the example for machine learning